Well then, let's get back to business, shall we? Look, I'm sorry guys, animation in conjunction with Let's Plays and commentaries and just a little free time for myself can eat up a lot of my time, and, well, you guys have all heard this before, so let's not waste any more of your time, and let's take a look at our last indie title before heading into the likes of Minecraft. So without further ado...
Dust, an Elysian Tail. First off, is this supposed to be tail as in an animal's tail, or am I missing something here? If it's about the story of the main character, Dust, shouldn't it be Tail, T-A-L-E? This game was created almost entirely by one guy, Dean Dodro, who both designed and programmed the entire game. With some assistance by Alex Kane in the writing department and a soundtrack composed by Hyperduck Soundworks, Dust and Elysian Tail took about 3.5 years to complete. It should be noted that Mr. Dodro initially thought it would only take him 3.5 months to complete the entire thing.
Never underestimate your workload, folks. It can bite you in the ass.
Very much like Bastion, Dust and Elysian Tail was also released for Xbox Live Summer of Arcade. It was also recently given a PC release, which you can find on Steam. I was actually going to look at the PC version for this review, but about 6 hours in, I'm assuming my video card started glitching out on me, because black bars would obscure certain graphics and I haven't found a solution to this problem as of this review. So we're booting up the Xbox Live version. I bought this game twice, just like Bastion. You're welcome, humble hearts. When I asked you guys to suggest the next indie title after reviewing Braid, I noticed a bunch of you recommended me this title because it was very much like a Metroidvania title, and seeing as I really get a kick out of titles like Castlevania Symphony of the Night or the DS Castlevania games for that matter, it looked like something I would enjoy at the very least. With that said, Dust and Elysian Tail is a 2D side-scrolling action RPG. You take control of a character named Dust. No, his parents didn't hate him, it's symbolic, which you'll find the meaning of later down the road. Stop me if you've heard this before. Dust is a highly skilled warrior who can't remember his past, and along with this magical talking sword known as the Blade of Outta, and this flying nimbat known as Fidget, the three embark on a quest to discover the truth of Dust's identity, save a village from an evil racist tyrant, and bring justice where justice is needed. I know I often take the time to explain the plot in certain detail, but this story is about as by the numbers as you can get. That's not necessarily a bad thing, mind you, but this game also spends a lot of time feeding you flavor text and exposition on things you can piece together yourself, especially if you've experienced stories similar to this already. It also doesn't help that with so much dialogue to absorb, there's barely any dynamic cutscenes to flesh it out. The only time you actually see animated cutscenes is near the end of the game. I know I can't expect a whole lot considering it's an indie title, but if they went out of their way to get voice actors and actresses to act out all the dialogue, they also should have put more emphasis on cutscenes, one developer or not. Don't get me wrong, I actually find the voice acting to be pretty damn good overall, with Fidget being the only one I'm hit and miss with, but given the amount of dialogue this game spews out, in conjunction with an unremarkable way of telling the story, Dust and Elysian Tail will most likely have you skipping dialogue left and right just to get a move on with the game. Luckily, that's the only big problem I have with Dust. I may not be such a big fan of the story and how it's structured, but I feel the gameplay makes up for it. To start off, Dust controls beautifully, about as smooth as characters would be in Metroidvania Castlevania titles. He's very responsive to button inputs, doesn't feel stiff in the slightest, and is more than capable of dishing out a lot of pain. Speaking of which, Dust's method of attack is the Blade of Outta, which you can use to rapidly attack foes and build up combos. The bigger the combo, the more bonus experience you get, although you lose the bonus experience if you get hit during a chain. It's nothing too annoying, but it sure is disheartening at times. Alongside Dust is Fidget, who isn't very remarkable by herself, but combined with Dust's Dust Storm ability, you can blast surrounding foes with a powerful magic attack that you can upgrade as you gain experience and defeat bosses. Personally, I love the electrical attack that you get after completing the Cinnamon Caverns. This combination seriously wrecks shit up, though the fire pillars and magical attack you start with aren't too bad either. Dust can equip different accessories and armor to further boost his stats. You can either buy equipment from shops located in each area, or create them yourself by gathering the necessary materials, which you can get from enemies after killing them, or discover them in treasure boxes, which requires keys to unlock. You can also eat food to restore health or keep it in the inventory in case of an emergency. I'm not mysterious about walled chicken, it's fucking delicious. Gaining enough experience will net you skill gems, which you can use to upgrade Dust's HP, attack, or defense, or you can spend the skill gem on Fidget, allowing her to deal more damage. Fidget is usually my top priority, seeing as I use the Dust Storm very often. You can also gain experience and money by completing side quests people offer you in Aurora Village or Mudpot. For a majority of the game, they're simple fetch quests that generally don't take too much of your time or— Fuck! Holy shit, I can't remember the last time I played a game where leveling up was represented by your character fucking exploding in a glimmer of light. I mean, it looks cool when you're in the middle of battle, but right after talking to a townsperson? It's like Dust is so giddy from completing the task at hand, he just can't help but burst. Assuming you're not playing on harder difficulties, your overall adventure in Dust should be relatively easy. There was never a point in the game I felt I was underleveled or unprepared for the task at hand. Granted, I'm the type of player who explores any area when I can, all while destroying anything that's in my way, so maybe my playstyle resulted in me cutting down enemies with little to no sweat. If you know what accessories to make, you can make Dust and Fidget absurdly powerful to the point of putting zero effort on almost anything. Enemies in general don't have a lot of variety in terms of strategy, including bosses. I'm not kidding when I say that 90% of enemies in this game can be taken down in a relatively similar manner, which admittedly bored me in some level. Performing combos and nuking everything in sight with Fidget is fun and all, but only for so long. Actually, now that I think about it, the only enemy that gave me any sort of trouble at first was the Trolks, because you have to utilize the parry system to temporarily daze it, allowing for maximum damage. Parrying is pretty fucking finicky for me. You have to strike around the same time your opponent does, and most of the time I'm taking a smack to the face. It could be just me, but I would have appreciated a button dedicated to blocking and countering, something akin to Animusha if you ever played that game. A little more variety in weapons and abilities would have made things more interesting as well. Dust is stuck with the blade of Outta and Fidget for the entire game, and while they're perfectly fine in their own way, I would have liked different weapons to thrash enemies with, like axes or lances, anything really. That's what made games like Symphony of the Night and others so damn replayable. If you're familiar with Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, Dust is structured very comparably to that game. Different areas across the map unlock as the plot unfolds, and you're free to pick any available area at any time. So do you head straight for the area necessary to advance the story, or will you sidetrack to gain some experience or complete a side quest?
The choices are yours, and yours alone.
Given the game's design, you won't be able to fully explore each area without the proper movement upgrades, such as the double jump, an item that allows you to scale certain walls, and sliding. Yeah, Dust needs an upgrade to slide. You wimp. Obtaining movement upgrades was always a good enough reward for me, but I also get a kick out of exploring a previous area and seeing what new ground I can cover with the added skills. In this game, it's usually nothing more than an extra treasure chest or materials needed for bigger stat bonuses, but if that's your kind of thing, or like seeing the exploration percentage go up, then this game is for you. Even when you're not taking the time to explore, the game will still require you to do a number of things before the story comes to an end. Dust is by no means short. It took me nearly 12 hours to complete it. That's about as long as a typical playthrough in, say, the DS Castlevania titles. For its $15 price tag, that's damn impressive, but that's not to say the entire journey is what I would call a jolly good time. While I love the aesthetics and atmosphere of the Sorrowing Metals, the amount of backtracking required to get the 4 items needed to progress can be a bit tiresome. The beginning of the game sort of drags too, thanks to the sheer amount of exposition and dialogue you need to listen to before being told to go to the Abadese Forest. You can always skip the dialogue, but do you know anybody that skips story or dialogue on his or her first playthrough? Despite only one person designing and programming this game, Dust and Elysian Tail looks gorgeous. The combat system looks incredibly stylish, the backgrounds are wonderfully drawn, and the soundtrack is appropriately triumphant, cheerful, haunting, eerie, and calming in the right places. I think my favorite themes are the world map music and the music that plays inside the Abadese Forest. If I can step back into Bastion really quick, I noticed that a lot of you took notice that I didn't mention the soundtrack at all during the review. Believe me when I say this, guys, it's not because I didn't find it enjoyable, I honestly just forgot to talk about it. To be frank, it didn't leave that much of an impact on me in the first place, but I loved the battle theme that played in certain areas, Terminal March. I don't consider Dust's soundtrack to be much better, but I did notice it more here than I did in Bastion, but I don't consider that the game's fault, that's just my taste in music preferring one to the other. Anyway, while I find Dust artistically pleasing, there were times where I lost myself in the chaos that can ensue when you're hacking and slashing a huge swarm of enemies. I nearly died about 3 times because I didn't pay enough attention to my health bar, which is sort of hard to notice amidst all the beautiful scenery and action. Secondly, and this may be a bit controversial, but I'm also not a big fan of the character designs in this game. I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me. I mean, it's simple and easy on the eyes, but there's something inside me saying that it's too simple. And personally, I can't stand Dust's color scheme. It looks like he's fighting in his fucking pajamas. Still, that doesn't change the fact that I enjoyed this game, and after completing it, I didn't care that I ended up buying the game twice anymore. Out of all the indie titles I've played so far for this channel, this one is definitely up there as one of my favorites. The story may not be very interesting, in fact I stopped paying attention to it about 3 hours in, and it can use more variety in a few areas, but it's still loads of fun because of the solid action and artistic value the game is jam-packed with. If you have a spare $15 and like this sort of thing to begin with, you should definitely give this game a try. At the very least, download the demo. Ugh, the summer Steam sale. No!
I don't need any of this shit! Go away! Minecraft is the next game! Minecraft! Just look at these savings!